One way to reduce the impact of climate change is to have electricity produced not by fossil fuels, but instead by nuclear energy. Now that has to be done in a very safe and proliferation resistant manner so as not to increase the risk of proliferation and nuclear weapons.
I believe that the danger of climate change outweighs the danger of nuclear energy. And in addition to reducing the greenhouse carbon emission, nuclear energy can also help us reduce the fine particulate matter that already is causing a significant number of deaths.
Nuclear power offers the option of decarbonizing part of the energy supply. The fact that the Paris Accord fails to mention nuclear power specifically isn't necessarily problematic. The Paris Accord is based off of our attempt to learn from the failures of the Kyoto Protocol. In the Kyoto Protocol, the United Nations basically assigned every nation a target which they had to meet if they were going to be party to the Kyoto Protocol. Nations decided they either didn't want to or couldn't meet these targets. So the Kyoto Protocol failed. In negotiating the Paris Accord, we decided instead we would learn from that failure and we would ask each nation to contribute their own plan. Ask the United States, ask Russia, ask India, ask China, what are you willing to do to combat climate change? These are called INDCs, or intended nationally determined contributions. What this means is the sum total of all these plans then becomes our climate mitigation strategy, aka the Paris Accord. Now the Paris Accord commits parties to following these plans, but there's nothing there that says they have to follow them in any particular way. So if some countries wish to develop nuclear energy to help decarbonize their energy supply, they can do that. If not, they don't have to. There's nothing required to do it.
So if you look globally, nuclear is the #2 source of clean electricity right now. In the United States, it's #1. Nuclear power currently provides about 20% of US electricity and has been doing that for decades. That's currently more than half of US clean electricity. So half of our carbon-free energy right now in the United States in the power sector comes from nuclear power. There's been studies that have looked at the air pollution and the climate benefits of having nuclear power. It is fair to say that nuclear power has saved millions of lives and will continue to save millions of lives by avoiding both climate change and by having air pollution benefits. If we look at what we need to do to decarbonize the world by 2050, we need all hands on deck. We need solar, we need wind power, we need hydropower. Potentially we need carbon capture for fossil fuels. We need electric vehicles, we need electrification. Nuclear power can play a key role in us decarbonizing the global system moving forward. We need to make sure that the next generation of nuclear reactors, the generation that can really help us mitigate climate change, does not pose a security risk. And we can do it, it's just we really need to make sure to prioritize that as an industry and as a people.
The intersections between climate and nuclear energy go so much deeper than that, and it requires an analysis and preparation that frankly I don't think are being addressed as they should. It isn't just a one-way direction or relationship of, okay, climate change requires a reduction in greenhouse gases, and therefore nuclear energy is the way. It's much more than that. Climate change and nuclear developments are and will continue to intersect in innumerable ways. I do think it is problematic that the Paris Accords and the NPT do not account for complex climate and nuclear security intersections. Many countries cite nuclear energy in their Paris commitments as a solution to emissions issues, but fail to go into how climate impacts can actually affect those same installations. How will they navigate those convergences? For example, one side of the climate nuclear security nexus involves preparing for the physical effects of climate change on nuclear infrastructure. There are reactors being built in places that we already know will flood because of sea level rise. Egypt's Nile River Delta is one of the most vulnerable deltas in the world due to sea level rise, and just west of it, Russia's state-owned nuclear energy company is building a nuclear reactor along the coast. Russia's leading these sorts of builds around the world, from Egypt to Bangladesh, to fill these rising energy demands. And climate change impacts pose serious risk to infrastructure, either directly due to sea level rise and its related flooding, extreme weather events like hurricanes, typhoons, monsoons, or even extreme temperatures. And we have to account for these risks.
Now, some recent research in the magazine Nature shows that countries that have greater percentages of renewables in their energy portfolio have lower greenhouse gas emissions than countries with greater percentages of nuclear power, particularly if they're less wealthy. This means that nuclear and renewable energy are not necessarily interchangeable when it comes to decarbonizing the energy supply. So the way to go for decarbonizing the energy supply is to go with renewables. Nuclear will play a role to get us away from fossil fuels, but it is not a substitute for renewable energy.